Things Are Getting Strange, the X-Files Rewatch podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Kim.
And I think we're bereft of news. I need to come up with a different word than bereft. I keep saying this.
Yeah, let's get out the thesaurus next time, I think.
Okay.
Think of a better word.
I will think of a better word for next time. It's true though, isn't it?
Yeah, the only thing I've done this week is I took to Twitter to ask people what their thoughts are before we go into season 7.
Okay. Oh, cool.
The general consensus is that X-Files is now past its heyday and that there are some good episodes, but nothing to the degree of what we've seen previously.
I think that's probably fair. It definitely... Yeah, well, I think it's when you totaled your conspiracy midway through last season and kind of trying to do something with it now, it's really odd.
Yeah, that's true.
But we'll get into the conspiracy because, this one had some surprises I'd forgotten about.
Yeah, at least we have the confidence now, based on what people have said, that there are good episodes to come.
There are. Any specific highlights about the season, or is it just more of season 6 kind of feel?
No, not really. The general consensus was the series is still perfectly good, but that there was a big escalation from about season 4 to season 6, and that this feels weaker following that.
I think that's probably fair. The thing that springs to mind, and it's an odd one because it went through a few different phases and then it's a bit more complicated, is of course Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Where a lot of Twin Peaks was running off who killed Laura Palmer. David Lynch didn't know, Mark Frost didn't know, no one had the faintest idea. So they just ran through the series until a network executive said, you need to tell people. And that led to the reveal about who did kill Laura Palmer. And they handled it pretty well, I thought.
Yeah. But it's quite clear that they never intended that question to be answered.
No, and that wasn't what they were interested in at all. And it's also notable when you watch Twin Peaks is there's a lull after that. And but Twin Peaks is actually at its weakest through that phase. It's actually kind of hard to watch. It gets very boring.
Yeah.
And then Wyndham Earl comes back in and things ramp up again before it got cancelled.
Yeah.
That seems to be what's happened to the X-Files, is that you've pushed the conspiracy to the point where we've said, okay, so either aliens take over the world or the conspiracy is stopped.
Yeah.
We've chosen option B. Because we can't really get away from Twin Peaks because we keep on coming back into this all the time, isn't it?
True.
But I suppose then we should move on and talk about the end of the world.
Well, that happened quickly.
It did.
I mean, we've got, 4 or 5 seasons to go and the world's ended?
Yeah, well, this is called the Sixth Extinction, so... Sixth Extinction, directed by Kim Manners, written by Chris Carter, and first broadcast on the 7th of November 1999. Guest stars: Jonelle Kennedy was Dr. Amina Negebi. Sorry if I got that wrong, but I can't remember. She does say it once in an episode, doesn't she? She was in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Okay.
Seinfeld. Cal in the City. She's in Torchwood.
Oh, yeah.
The one you hate. Well, actually, not the first part you hate, the third part you hate. The end, the last
Day, then.
Yeah, she's in that one, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And she did voices for Saints Row 1 and 2.
Oh,
so
cool.
No one of note, it turns out, because it's all like a non-applicable credit. But aside from her, everyone who was in the last episode is in this episode. With one returning person, which will be Michael Critchgall, who we handled quite a lot back in Gethsemane.
Yep. So do you have a synopsis for the Sixth Extinction?
I do. Part 1. On the Ivory Coast, Scully sits in a tent studying detailed photographs of the spacecraft half buried in the beach. A figure, the primitive African man, mysteriously appears before suddenly vanishing, after which Scully's tent is swarmed by flying insects. Meanwhile, in the United States, Skinner visits a delusional Mulder who's been kept in a padded cell at Georgetown Hospital. Mulder seemingly attacks Skinner, but actually covertly passes him a torn shred of his hospital gown, reading "Help Me." Scully is visited by Dr. Amina Megheri, a friend of the previous doctor who was killed in part 1, who warns her not to tell any of the locals about the swarm or the primitive African man, although word is already out on the African internet. Soon afterwards, one of the locals working on excavating the ship is apparently scalded by the boiling seawater. Dr. Barnes arrives alongside another plague. The ocean turns blood red. Skinner revisits a heavily drugged Mulder who cannot talk but writes Critchgall on his palm. Skinner visits the man, who is now unemployed and living in a low-cost apartment, and convinces him to visit the hospital with him. Once there, Critchgall believes that Mulder has mind-reading abilities and injects him with phenytoin to slow down his brain activity. Later, Diana Fowley and his doctor arrive, and with his mind-reading abilities, Mulder tells Skinner that he knows about him being indebted to Krychek, and Fowley's connection with Cigarette Smoking Man. Scully, with Barnes' help, is able to translate some of the inscriptions on the spacecraft, which contain information on genetics and various religions. However, Barnes' behaviour becomes increasingly erratic, and arming himself with a machete, he refuses to let Scully or Nagabi leave. Barnes realises that the craft is bringing dead fish back to life. Scully and Nagabi take the opportunity to knock him out and escape. While they're driving away, Scully sees a primitive African man and decides to head home to the United States. Kreskow and Skinner put Mulder under additional tests to verify his abnormal brain activity. They again inject Mulder with phenytoin, but this time they are caught by Fowley. Mulder goes into seizure. Meanwhile, Barnes, in a bizarre experiment, kills his driver, only for the driver to soon reanimate and kills Barnes instead. Scully flies back to the US and visits Mulder at the hospital. On the Ivory Coast, Nagabi arrives with the police, finding Barnes dead and the spaceship gone.
Da 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 da.
So one thing about this episode, and it's held true for me since the first time I've watched it, every other time I've tried to watch it, I've tried to make sense of this. But I can't not say it. Did a zombie steal a spaceship?
Yes.
What the hell? I mean, I'm not kidding around here. I can't... Actually, no. Tell a lie. I can kind of get it, because I can get literally what happens in the episode is apparently a zombie stole an entire spaceship that's been crashed in the Ivory Coast for God knows how long.
Yep.
In a metaphorical sense, the spaceship as a source of truth is gone, so you can no longer find the truth, which is what I think Chris Carter's going for. My problem is you can't make these two things work together, because you've still got zombie stole my spaceship.
You've been looking forward to talking about this for so long.
I have, because it's just such a bizarre thing. But it's like, that thing is massive.
Yeah.
And it's not like there's no hint that the aliens have come by and dragged up their derelict spaceship or something.
I'm pretty sure it's also upside down in the sand.
Yeah, or as far as we know, it's upside down.
Mm.
There's no sense the ship is still active, although it does do the 10 Plagues of Egypt for some reason. I'm not sure why it does the 10 Plagues of Egypt, but it does.
Sure, why not?
And, yeah. The spaceship is just so much of this. And the zombie, but mostly the spaceship.
To be fair, the bits with the spaceship are the more interesting bits of the episode as well.
They are, but every moment of it you're going, what? Why?
I think it's down on a base level, and we touched upon it last time, is just everything about this spaceship raises questions.
Yeah, I mean, you found the thing I was trying to get to last time about the Navajo language.
Yes, I did some research. Most Native American languages traditionally weren't written down, so there's no such thing as the ancient Navajo alphabet. Navajo existed as a spoken language, centuries upon centuries ago, but only recently it's actually become a written language.
Yeah, so that makes the spaceship seem more like a fake, but it can't be a fake, because it's got passages from the Bible in Navajo on
There's
it.
also a frankly bizarre line where Scully says something about how there are 24 plates on the spaceship, each one corresponding to a human chromosome, but humans don't have 24 chromosomes. They've got 46 arranged in 23 pairs.
Yes. So that's bizarre science fail. Good there, Scully.
Yeah.
The other thing that got me was they made that thing about it's a map of the human genome. And there's a whole thing about how, they can, if it said Gattaca, you'd know what that was.
Yeah.
But those are human words that we have derived from, I'm not sure what the derivation of adenosine, thylacine, and the rest of them is.
So you've got the bizarrity of, even if we accept for the sake of this episode that there's such thing as the ancient Navajo language, the aliens are taking modern English words and writing them in ancient Navajo.
Yes. Or just how you derived those words in our current science. You have to then, that has to then be somehow dispersed backwards in time to come forward again. So you wind up with the exact same symbols, meaning exactly the same things that you can then translate as Scully does from just one thing to this is, T, this is G, this is S, this is A. That's gibberish.
So it doesn't even function as they were evidently trying to make it work last episode as a kind of alien Rosetta Stone.
Yeah. I mean, it's the kind of thing where, what's the oldest current word we've got that you can think of off the top of your head?
Tomb is Anglo-Saxon. It means open space.
Yeah.
So from that basis, how would you recreate this into an alien language that you've put on the side of a thing? If we said, the word tomb is showing up here, it's like, well, what's the meaning of that word then? If it's taken from ancient times, does it mean open?
Or is it the
something
more
like that.
modern version, which
Yeah.
means a place where you put dead people? Yeah.
And then, bafflingly, we've translated this into the ancient Navajo alphabet, which doesn't exist.
I mean, I sort of know these kind of things because it seems like I got into this weird habit of reading the translation notes for like Shakespeare plays and Chaucer. And they go through, this is the state it actually existed in at the time. This is how we've worked it through into modern English. These are the compromises we have to make it legible to you.
Chaucer's interesting, actually, because Chaucer's written in, and usually is presented the way it was originally written, which is called Middle English. And Middle English didn't really have a kind of standard written form.
No.
Because a lot of people were illiterate, and therefore a lot of it is written based on pronunciation and stuff like that. So you get these fantastic regional differences in Middle English.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, if you look at the Canterbury Tales, it looks like it's written in another language. And it kind of works if you read it through phonetically, you can get a rough idea of what it says. It doesn't work exactly because there are still words that existed back then that don't now.
Exactly. And that working that through to the present, you can see they had to do a lot of work so that you have even a faintest idea of what it means at this point in time.
So you have, like the general prologue, the squire's courtesy was lowly and serviceable and carpet on his father at the table. If you actually say it slowly, he was courteous and serviceable and always carved meat for his father at the table.
Yeah.
So, you can kind of read it through phonetically and still get the idea of what they're trying to say.
But we're talking Middle English. This is, 400 years ago?
Oh, further than that.
So
This is like Middle Ages.
Middle Ages, yeah.
So you're looking at kind of 1300s.
Yeah, so 700-ish years ago. And you have to do that amount of work to get it into a legible state. But Scully, Dr. Barnes, and Dr. Mina on a beach
Yep.
can just translate from an ancient written language that doesn't exist into modern English and find passages from the Quran. The thing is, I don't get the impression that anything's written down in like minute detail, so it can't be the whole Bible, the whole Quran, or the whole genome sequence on the hull of the spaceship.
Well, think of alone how long both the Bible and the Quran are.
Exactly. And then you've got, as I alluded to last time, there are different versions of the Bible.
Of course, yeah.
There are so many different ones.
So is this a King Edward spaceship or something?
Yeah. Is this a Good News spaceship? Is this a Dead Sea Scrolls spaceship? Chris, do you know what you're messing with? Is that why you didn't get any pushback? Is that everyone said, this is nonsense?
Yeah. It's very hard to suspend disbelief for the sake of the spaceship.
It is. I mean, the thing is, the ancient astronaut thing, I mean, the most recent example I can point to, unfortunately, is Prometheus again. But Prometheus, the thing in the film they found, though, was the figure pointing to a star system.
Interestingly, the ancient astronaut theory does have grounding in real life. There are some fantastic African carvings that show what look to be like people in helmets pointing upwards and things like that.
But there are other explanations for what those are. We've just taken this the modern impression of what they're showing.
And to the modern eye, it does look like people talking to an astronaut.
Yeah. But things like the Nazca lines have a rational, very mundane explanation for exactly why they look like that. Is they were viewable. They just weren't viewable in the way you think they were.
Yeah.
But like Prometheus has the thing where the figure's pointing at the three stars.
Yeah.
And they track that down through the star charts, find the right system and everything else. And that's fine. That works. And also Prometheus just said the engineers are the start of life on Earth. Nothing else. You do get into a whole, so did they ensure that there'd be 5 extinctions and then something resembling the engineers would rise up as a creature?
It should be noted as well that the Sixth Extinction is something that is still debated today. You know, the idea that there have been these great cataclysms that have destroyed life, and because it's happened X amount of times in the past, we could be heading for another one.
Yeah. But it's as a basis of life on Earth. Aliens can start life on Earth, that's fine. I mean, the panspermia they mentioned last time, that is fine as a theory. It's having the holy text on the side of your spaceship is where I sort of go.
I think you're getting into the sort of Stargate-y idea of the ancient Egyptian gods look weird because this is what the aliens look like.
I think even Stargate's better than this. Because that was the whole ancient Egypt is based on these aliens who came through a portal and kidnapped a whole bunch of people.
But, you know, you can kind of see it in Stargate too, because it's that neat look that the alien armour has where they look kind of like animal head masks.
Yeah.
And you can see where it came from.
But it feels terrible for me to say, yeah, Stargate handled this better than the X-Files. Which apparently said...
Nothing wrong with Stargate.
Well, there's a few things wrong with Stargate, but it's more a coherent vision of aliens influencing life on Earth.
And again, going back to that old conspiracy theory about how the pyramids could not have been made with the technology of the time.
Yeah. And
which we've proven false, but a lot of people do still hold true that.
Yes. Yeah, as the reasons for doubting that the Egyptians built the pyramid is increasingly sketchy because people are proving a lot of ways that you can do it.
Must admit, I'm more concerned as bug fan of how we have North American species of moths in this episode, apparently in Africa.
Oh, well, I think I can explain that. They're very lazy.
Or it's the magic of the spaceship.
Well, I kind of want the magic of the spaceship. Okay. So, one thing about that is, Dr. Barnes gets into his head to bring a whole sack full of fish into the tent.
Yeah.
We're going to have to put aside why you wanted to do that, Mr. Barnes, but you do you, and the fish come back to life.
I'm not sure there's a plague of Egypt where fish come back to life, but other than that, I personally don't remember the fish coming back from the dead plague.
But then he kills his driver to see what happens. I can see your logic there.
Yep, the fish came back, will a higher life form.
Yep. Zombie kills Dr. Barnes.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still dead. What happened there?
He wasn't in the tent.
Oh, as a tent, the important bit, is it?
Yep.
Okay. Fair enough. Then the zombie stole the spaceship.
Yep.
I quite actually like one of the shots when Dr. Amina arrives with all her people. Because we got that whole, the African internet and don't tell the people what's going on. It's like, there's a UFO on the beach.
We're looking at it right now.
But then the people just come out with spades and they're digging in the shallow water of a tidal pivot. In this case of, don't you need to kind of get it so the waves aren't going to keep crashing over you while you're doing this, or wait for the sea to go out, then try and excavate it? Not do it while the surface washing over you.
True.
But then there's a bit where the water boils some of them. And I'm going to emphasize some of them because when they're saying, the water has turned to boiling water, and then in the background you can see there's like 3 people waist deep in the water still, and they're just fine. Okay, primitive African man. What in the hell is going on?
It should be noted, for you keeping saying that is how he's credited.
I don't care. What the hell is going on? Who is he?
He's
what?
Apparently primitive African man, given that we couldn't give this character a better name in the credits.
Yeah. Well, one other thing you said to me, and I was wondering what they were going to do with it, was you made some offhand comment about Scully having her memory wiped. Because that's one of the only ways you could have in the past, and I can't remember how the season works because I don't think this is ever going to come up again, of letting Scully see something on that magnitude and then not having it impact anything.
True.
And I think there's a comment from Gillian Anderson about how on earth to play her character anymore when she's stood on the hull of an alien spacecraft. But, I mean, the bit where they drive away and Scully sees the guy in the road and then he takes over Dr. Amina in the passenger seat. And they said, something's not for you, or whatever he says to her. I thought that was going to be her memory wiped.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that would have been really frustrating, but that would have helped a lot of things go a lot more gracefully. And it's not.
In modern train of thoughts, it made me think a bit of the Westworld, This Maze Is Not For You.
I think that was an inevitable thing I came away from as well.
Admittedly, this was well before Westworld. But it's that idea of there is a puzzle there, but it's not meant for the person looking at it.
Yeah, and is that why the zombie then stole the spaceship?
He needs to fly it round to where the person who needs to see the maze is currently waiting.
But I mean, we've got to take that as it's a personification of the spaceship saying, this is not for you. But she's come away with so many photographs that she still has of this craft.
Or is he supposed to be the ancient astronaut?
I don't know, maybe. If he is, I mean, Other
than being marginally creepy but ultimately benign, I'm not sure what his purpose actually was in the episode.
I don't think he was even that creepy, he just showed up like 3 times.
But always standing there saying nothing, which is always eerie and things.
It is. I mean, for a better one of weird scares, there was Dr. Barnes arriving.
Yeah.
Because the Jeep drives up, there's only one person in it, Scully approaches with machete, the driver talks to her in the wrong language still, because there's a whole thing about them not using the right language for this part of Africa. And then Dr. Barnes is behind her. Dude, did you get out the car, circle all the way around just to do a jump scare?
Apparently so.
I can't even with this episode anymore.
You also had some neat moments, though. I quite like the insect plague.
The insect plague was good. I don't mind the 10 plagues of Egypt on that front, because if you imply that the 10 plagues of Egypt happened because of a crashed ship or something, that's fine. I can get on board with that. I'm going to ask you what your timing was of this and why you thought like that, but it's a cool effect.
And bugs are interesting, not to mention you're in a part of the world where locust swarms are a thing, but bugs are interesting because we even saw it in Miracle Man previously. You can do things to attract them. So you could buy it something physically, that we as humans cannot sense, but it's attracting insects.
Yeah. It's just that then the bug bit is over with and then we move on. But you did also find out there's a cricket rental service in Los Angeles.
Do you want to know how they did the swarm of bug effects? Because I quite like this. I like looking up how they do the effects, especially if it involves my precious, precious insects. But
even crickets?
Nobody likes crickets.
No.
But they were hoppers, to be fair. They're grasshoppers.
Okay, that's fine.
But essentially what they do is they fire a mixture of popcorn and packing peanuts at the outside of the tent to give that idea of small things pinging off it, and then digitally make it look like insects in post. But also I discovered that there is indeed a cricket rental place in Hollywood where they rented, I think it was 50,000 crickets that they could just then strew all over the set to make it look like there were loads of dead bugs. Well, because there were loads of dead bugs everywhere.
So you tell me we should be putting the ones that don't get eaten into a box and we can sell them to someone?
Yeah, anything my frogs don't eat, we can now start our own cricket rental service.
I'm still gonna fixate on the rental part of you actually expect to get them back afterwards. That you didn't just buy dead crickets, you rented dead crickets.
Who doesn't want to rent dead crickets?
I'm not sure you get anything back from this.
Does someone have to count it back? You lose your deposit if there are not 50,000 crickets there.
I imagine there's a margin for error, so as long as you're like 45,000, you're okay. 5,000 is the variable measure. Okay, well, I suppose we spent a lot of time in Africa. We should probably get to the other part of the episode, which is Mulder's bit.
She's more Skinner's half of the story this time.
It is more Skinner's bit. I mean, one last thing on Scully, though, before I forget, is she still hasn't actually justified why she's there. Because I don't think all she'll ever say on this is it was something to help Mulder.
Mm.
And she ever stop and explain, why do you think this is going to help him?
True.
What do you hope to learn? Because all you've learned is there's a very old spaceship crashed on the beach with the Bible carved in ancient Navajo on the outside.
I presume she's hoping that by studying it she can figure out why that rubbing's affecting Mulder in such a way and therefore potentially cure him.
I suppose so. But as you reminded me, we did forget something quite critical. Or I was sort of did say you were wrong, but no, you were right.
Oh, I was right about something.
You were
It
right.
happens sometimes.
Happens quite a lot. Scully was indeed infected by the black oil.
Yes, I knew it!
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, you were correct. And the other part about that, I'm thinking about it, is unless you want to imply that the Russian vaccine that Mulder had is too primitive to cure it properly, functionally, Mulder and Scully have had exactly the same experiences now.
Yeah, they've both been infected and both been cured by the poorly named vaccine.
Yeah. So why the rubbing doesn't affect Scully does not make any sense. And, oh boy, we're going to get into that next time as well, I think.
Yep.
To Skinner, then. Who saw Critchgall coming back, except we knew he had one or two more appearances back when he was first cast.
I didn't remember, to be honest.
I knew, well, I think I sort of said, what happened to him? And he said, oh, he's actually in a later episode. He is? He's very easy to forget, though. It's also kind of hilarious that he's fine with remote viewing, but he draws a line at aliens. Because I had to skip it on the synopsis from Wikipedia, because a lot of it was saying, oh, Mulder's infected with an alien virus. Like, he doesn't believe in the aliens. He thinks this is remote viewing.
Yeah.
He's fine with CIA Cold War mind game stuff.
Which is something he's evidently seen before as well, because he knows to use the seizure medication to treat it.
Yeah, and it does seem to work. At the same time, though, it's so weird to see Skinner pivot right back to being helpful again after betraying them literally one episode previous.
Yeah. I'm still not sure what the hierarchy is here as well, given that Fowley still seems to be able to order Skinner around.
Yeah, though he orders her out at one point as well, so he's still technically in charge, except then she overrules him with the doctor, and it's very confusing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that Fowley's back in it again.
I know.
We can't do much about her.
I know. She just annoys me so much. I think it's because she's so blatantly a villain. She's not even subtle about it.
No. Some of it's got to be the fact that you as the audience member know she's telling a lie all the time, but how affronted she gets to be if she's ever accused of it. Because that's really obnoxious to watch someone do. We know you're not telling the truth. We know you're compromised. We don't understand how, because kind of ran away at the end of the last time we saw you.
Mm.
And yeah, Mulder's gone insane again.
Has he been insane in the past?
I'm trying to think. He lost it a bit in Ice, is the one I was thinking of.
And I guess demons.
Oh yeah, Demons would be one.
And grotesque for that matter as well. He kind of lost his mind a bit in.
And Grotesque, yeah. So it's happened. It's good track record from so far.
And yet they never make him go and see the FBI psychiatrist.
No, they don't, do they? It's only Scully who has to go and have psychiatric treatment. Mulder gets to just flout around and do whatever he wants. Until now, he's hospitalized. And on reflection, the scenes aren't great. Because we've got Critchcow giving him this remote viewing test. And Mulder can't do it if it's too slow. It needs to be fast. And then he starts preempting things. Or more cynically would be he's getting them wrong, but just wrong enough that it looks like he's getting them right.
I thought that was quite clever, that little scene, but I do agree you can't deduce from this, oh no, he's preempting what's going to be on the screen. No, he's getting it wrong.
Yeah, he did badly, got better, did badly again. That's like most psychic tests that you see on laboratory conditions.
Oh yeah, they're never as accurate as you want. They view them as being like an overwhelming success if you get it right like 60% of the time or something.
As long as it's above a coin flip average, you would something is going on, but not sure what, and even that's subject to a load of non-verbal and non-visual things that might be affecting you. I did find it slightly weird that Critchgal doesn't believe in aliens, but what's the image Mulder needs to find? It's a UFO. Really? Is there nothing else? Can you not put Marilyn Monroe there or something?
It was interesting to bring Critchgow back of all Mulder's kind of previous allies and informants.
Yeah. At the same time, I do want to say, Mulder, why did you think he would help?
Especially as last time he was only really helping because he wanted to help his son, who died over the course of that arc.
Yeah. Off screen as well. And hold on to that, because the off-screen deaths we're going to get. I kind of like Mulder writing "help me" in presumably blood on a bit of fabric from his shirt. Although how no one in the hospital noticed that. And
slipping it into Skinner's pocket while under the pretense of beating him up.
Very cunning, but also very sure.
We haven't really talked about Fowley all that much yet.
I suppose we could talk about Fowley.
Her motivation feels odd. I think we get a bit more of what her motivation actually is in the next episode. But it's her... Mulder can read minds, yeah? When he reads Fowley's mind, she tells him how much she loves him and swears that she's not going to let him die, she's going to help him and all the rest of it. But she's kind of lying, I think.
Yeah.
And surely Mulder would know this if he can read her mind.
You would think.
Because Fowley's not deluding herself and stuff like that.
No, she knows exactly what she's doing.
She knows what's coming as well.
Yeah. So that was an odd choice.
Which also should mean that Mulder knows what's coming and knows that he is going to be lied to again and again in the next part, as we'll get to shortly.
Yeah.
Psychic powers aren't as good as I was led to believe by Gibson Praise, apparently.
No. And that's a good point then. The fact that we don't even mention Gibson Praise.
Our previous very good psychic.
Yeah. Which you think would be a better parallel to draw to this one.
I guess Gibson Praise is only not being killed by his psychic powers because he's a hybrid then as well. Because, it's very clear in this that Mulder is going to die, as much as it keeps using taglines of he's more alive than ever before and ridiculous things through this arc. He's not more alive than ever before, he's dying.
He's dying. Well, no, to be fair, Gibson Praise is locked in a nuclear reactor with an alien.
I'm sure he'll be fine.
Will he? That's a bad place to be trapped with anything.
It's a bad place to be altogether.
We can make a point here that since the black oil, I think part 2 just confirmed the black oil is definitely part of the reason why they suspected Mulder.
Yeah.
And we do know that the black oil does connect back to the grey aliens, it does connect to the colonists via whatever convoluted route it took. It's still odd, though, to see that spaceship on that beach when we saw the black oil spaceship in Apocrypha. Didn't look like that. Where's the spirals?
It did look a bit like the one that was in the Shiloh that Kryzik dissolved over, though. I mean, that had that same kind of shape.
True, but it had a big spiral that the black oil used to get into itself.
Oh, that's true. That's what you're thinking.
That's what I'm getting at. I mean, if they'd had that with Navajo writing on it back in season 3, that would have been points for consistency.
Yeah.
You really did it, but no.
True. It does look a lot like a smaller version of the one you saw in the X-Files movie, though.
It does. Well, it's got that same strange underhanging bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Though the one
Bit that makes me think of the laser from Independence Day.
I was trying not to say it, but yeah.
Yeah.
But then the one in the movie was very circular, and this is very much, well, it looks like a triangle from what we can see of it anyway.
Yeah. Maybe it's just to fit in with the triangular shaped ones we've been seeing since, Deep Throat.
Yeah. What shape was the one in Jose Chung again? Was that triangle?
I think that was triangular as well.
Was that triangular? It might have been. To say, that's one of the few military UFOs we've ever seen, along with we never got to see the one in Dreamland.
True.
But yeah, the whole Fowley is... Why is she still here, basically?
Hold that thought. We don't have to last much longer.
I know we don't, but still.
I think before we move on, I will just note as well that critics are a lot harsher on the first part of this than they are on Amor Fati. Amor Fati does have a lot of positive feedback.
Oh, I know.
Whereas this one, I think even Chris Carter admitted it was a bridge episode.
Yeah, though I think they're both pretty awful. I mean, actually, no, before we move on, we should also point out there's that comment from Frank Spotnitz of how it's a new era for the conspiracy or something.
That's much like the old era of the conspiracy, for
Well, I'd go a bit further. I'd say it's exactly the same as the old era of the conspiracy. It's not different. It's just...
Or at least not different enough.
Yeah, well, I'd say it's not... It's weird, but not good weird. It's kind of goofy weird.
Yeah.
You may have dispensed with the syndicate, which, okay, that is a whole dramatic thing, but you've still got Cigarette Smoking Man, and that distinction doesn't make enough of a difference. But anyway, The Sixth Extinction Part 2, Amor Fati, was directed by Michael Watkins, written by David Duchovny and Chris Carter, and first broadcast on the 14th of November 1999. Guest stars, a lot of familiar faces. The one new person would be Brian George, who played the Project Doctor.
Okay, yeah.
Inauspicious title, but we've seen him in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he is oddly prevalent.
So, the Care Bears movie.
What, the old one?
Yeah.
Oh.
Robin Hood Men in Tights. Pom Poko. Austin Powers. Inspector Gadget. Ghost World. And this one, I've never seen it, you've never seen it, but I can't not include it because of what's coming further down the line, is Bubble Boy.
Bubble Boy?
Bubble Boy.
About a boy in a bubble?
About a boy in a bubble. Probably the same boy in a bubble that inspired... Oh, what's this? Seinfeld.
I do think that's what he's best known for.
Yes. As Babu.
Babu, yeah.
The poor log-suffering restaurateur, of which Seinfeld destroys his life 4 times. Also in Hotel Transylvania.
Ah.
And Box Trolls. He's Alfred in a bunch of Batman adaptations.
He does a lot of voicing then.
Yep. Carolyn in the City. Star Trek Voyager. Batman the Animated Series, not as Alfred. Freakazoid. Pinky and the Brain. Avatar The Last Airbender. The cartoon.
Ah.
Damn it, I wish I didn't have to specify that these days, but I do.
Yeah, there's many adaptations of that now.
Yeah, but it used to be it's The Last Airbender or Avatar The Last Airbender. Now we've got Avatar The Last Airbender, the cartoon.
Not
Thank you,
the
Netflix.
Netflix series.
Steven Universe.
Okay.
SpongeBob SquarePants. Baldur's Gate 1. Icewind Dale 2. Knights of the Old Republic. Kingdom Hearts 2 and 3 and Disney Infinity, and any other time Captain Barbossa is voiced in a video game, that's him.
You must just do a really good Jeffrey Rush impression.
Apparently so. Mass Effect 1 and 3, Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2, Final Fantasy 14, and Skylanders Trap Team.
Ah, some nice ones there.
He's a surprisingly prolific actor, that one. So, would you like to tell us about the love of fate, the fate of love, whatever you want to interpret Amor Fati as?
I'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But yes, I do have a synopsis for you. As always, ad-libbed from Wikipedia. Mulder is visited in hospital by both his mother Tina and the cigarette-smoking man. Cancer Man administers a drug that cures his paralysis and reveals to Mulder for the first time that he is his biological father, before taking him from the hospital. Meanwhile, Krishkow visits Scully, who has now returned from the Ivory Coast. He explains to her that because Mulder made contact with the rubbings of the spacecraft shard, this has somehow reawakened the black oil that has lied dormant in his system since he was cured of this 3 years previously. Because he is infected with the virus still, Mulder is the proof of alien life that he has been searching for all these years. Skinner investigates what has happened to Mulder on learning that he'd vanished from the hospital, and tells Scully that Tina was the one who signed him out. Meanwhile, Cancerman takes Mulder to a strange neighbourhood, apparently offering him a sort of witness protection program where he can now live out his life in peace. Inside his new home, he finds that Deep Throat is still alive and is now his neighbour. Deep Throat explains that he faked his own death to escape being part of the syndicate. He exposits to Mulder the benefits of doing the same thing. Mulder meets with Fowley, who also lives in this community, and the two of them have sex. Scully reviews the hospital's security tapes. Although the screens have largely been blacked out, she realises that the unseen person that Tina is speaking to has to be the cancer man. Scully also receives an unmarked package in her office, which contains a book of Native American beliefs. These explain how one man will prevent the incoming apocalypse. Scully visits Krishkow again and notices that he has stolen a copy of her information on the alien spaceship. He admits that he's hacked her computer, and so she deletes all the files from his laptop. Now living in blissful suburbia, Mulder is reunited with Samantha in his new life. He marries Fowley and they have children. Years pass quickly, he grows older and Fowley dies of old age. It quickly becomes apparent that Mulder is actually dreaming everything. In reality, the cancer man has taken him to some kind of government facility and he's being tended to by doctors there. Cancer man is preparing to have portions of Mulder's cranial tissue, the ones that have been infected and activated because of the alien virus, implanted in himself. Mulder is likely to die during this operation, but Cancer Man believes that Mulder has become an alien-human hybrid and wants to take that material into himself so he will survive the coming alien apocalypse. Back in the dream, we see that Mulder is now an old man on his deathbed. He is accompanied by the cigarette-smoking man, who is completely unaged. He explains to him that everyone he loved, Fowley, Deep Throat, Samantha and Scully, are now all dead. The cancer man also opens the curtains, and we reveal that outside is an alien holocaust. In reality, Krycek pays a visit to Krishkow, kills him, burns all his papers, and steals his laptop. Scully also returns to her apartment and finds Albert Hosteen there. He convinces her to pray with him. She awakens later to find that he is gone, and somebody has slipped a security card under her door. Scully uses this to enter the facility where Mulder is being held. In Mulder's dream, we see an unaged Scully meeting him at his bedside and calling him a traitor, convincing him to break free of the illusion and return to reality. In reality, we see that Scully has found Mulder alone, strapped to a table in the facility. He awakes and the two of them escape together. A week later, Scully meets Mulder at her apartment and tells him that Fowley has been murdered. Mulder confides a little of what happened during his ordeal and explains that Scully served as his touchstone.
Thank you. There's just so much about this episode, isn't there?
I mean, I have loads of problems with biogenesis and Sixth Extinction, but Amor Fati I just dislike intensely.
It's one of the ones where I saw who wrote it and thought, what happened? Because David Duchovny has previously been a mark of quality on the series.
Yeah.
If his name's been on the episode, it's a case of, it'd usually be good. I mean, he's partly responsible for Colony, and Colony was great.
And The Unnatural is brilliant.
Yeah. And then he wrote Jesus fan fiction for his character?
It's very much like a fan fiction, to be honest, when fanfic writers kind of elevate a character into a godly status.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we touched on this all the way back in Herrenvolk, where Cancerman says how important Mulder is to the entire project, which I don't think they remember they said, but we're suddenly implying it again. I think we need to get out of the way the inspiration for the episode.
The Last Temptation of Christ.
Yeah, and given that Mulder's in a crucifix pose for most of the episode, not hard to see.
It's even, he's got that weird thing around his head that looks a bit like a crown of thorns when he's tied down.
Yeah, if you or I had written this, don't you think we'd sort of sat back and gone, might be a bit too on the nose here. Might want to tone this down a bit.
I've never seen or read The Last Temptation of Christ, but I believe that Mulder's dream sequence is largely lifted from that as well. It's, from what I understand, the point where Jesus is on the cross. He is rescued and lives out his life in happiness with a wife and children, only for Judas to appear at the last and call him a traitor, at which point it kind of snaps back and he's been on the cross dying the whole time. Which is exactly what we get with, bizarrely, Scully as Judas Iscariot in this episode.
Yeah, who saw that one coming? I mean, let's talk about his dream first, because I think I remember people being excited about some of it at first, because it's like, Deep Throat's alive. It's like, Well, okay, it turns out he's not, but he's also in this for one scene and then walks out the series again.
It was super nice to see him again.
It was, at the same time, it felt kind of pointless. Or Samantha, who didn't even get to say anything.
I'll give it 2 credits. It's too heavy-handed, but I like the imagery of the child making sandcastles on the beach.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that one.
It gets increasingly heavy-handed, and I don't like where it eventually goes.
The final shot of the spaceship is... What are we doing with this?
Why are you destroying a sandcastle? I'm not, you are! It's like, yeah, now we're a bit on the nose, but...
I can't help but think of End of Evangelion when he makes the pyramid out of sand and then kicks it down.
Yeah.
That was a lot more subtle. And we're talking End of Evangelion, the film that decided it's going to burn the franchise
down. It's one of those things where you don't need the child's voice over it. We get it.
We get it. It's fine.
But I did like the early parts of Mulder's dream when it could have been real. The second it gets to Fowley marrying him and him having kids and stuff like that, you know it has to be a dream. But that first little bit with Deep Throat saying it's like a witness protection, at this point you can actually believe it.
You can. I mean, I do want to fixate on the Fowley sex scene a bit, just because I was absolutely hysterical.
She looks like she's dressed like a Cennobite.
No, back up a bit, because I do like that bit as well. So it's Mulder's been driven to this suburban place by a cancer man.
Yeah.
Who then gets out the car and says, you can drive away if you want, or you can come and see what's in the house. Cancer man then evaporates, or goes somewhere else entirely. So Mulder walks into the house. He's still handcuffed at this point.
Yep.
And Deep Throat is in his kitchen. Fair enough. And Mulder is still handcuffed. And then time passes and Mulder goes to bed. And he's still handcuffed. He's got his shirt off somehow, but he's still handcuffed. And then Fowley opens the door. The Cennobite, the engineer, because we never saw the engineer. The female Cennobite, who in the book was actually very attractive. She just had scarification and a belt of tongues, I seem to remember.
Yeah, correct.
So otherwise, though, she was meant to be quite attractive, I seem to remember.
She has such sights to show him.
That she does. So Fowley comes in like the most mainstream sexy Cenobite, given she's wearing a low-cut negligee, which that's not Clive Barker's style at all. But anyway, strides into the room. Mulder stands up. She produces it to his handcuff and fade to black. And what? Why? I mean, admittedly, do you like Fowley as a Cenobite? Does that work?
Yeah, that works for me. I can take that.
But it's still, I can only imagine that. But you scolded people. I mean, was this episode infuriating? I know you're going to win. You basically do win by the end of this anyway. But the fact that this is Mulder's fantasy dream to keep him in a safe space while they screw around with his head, and he's not married to Scully, he's married to Fowley, because they don't need the other person there. Scully could have been in his fantasy just fine.
It is a strange choice for Fowley. I guess it's just putting an end into the kind of love triangle in this episode.
I know, but it's not even an effective love triangle.
You've spent at least 3 seasons building up the fact that Mulder and Scully are attracted to each other, and then have his wife become Fowley in this fantasy. Is there some subconscious here? Does Mulder just not like Scully as much as he thought?
Oh, well, on the basis of this. But then the next part feels like we watched 2001: A Space Odyssey. Because we've got the person reacting to event when you see it then becomes reality. That's the flash forward through time very quickly. And my God, Fowley looks really attractive when she dies. That's a very well preserved 60-year-old or however she would have been in that time frame.
Some people age really well, Cancer Man.
That's true. Well, he doesn't age at all, does he?
Precisely.
Yeah. Or, we could talk about Mulder's terrible old age of makeup effects, Dodd Calm looked more effective than this.
Even of the time, those are atrocious aging effects.
Dodd Calm managed it with a degree of success.
Yeah. I still thought they looked awful in Dodd Calm, to be honest, but this is a stage worse again. And this is seasons down the line when they should have a better budget for this.
Well, again, they were having trouble with the budget because of LA, but still, you should know what you're doing. You should have better people around, I thought, in LA rather than Vancouver.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though, that Mulder has kids in this fantasy, and then basically they're not focused on at all. Like, they're there for one scene, and then that's them gone.
I think the big thing, and it frustrates me, and I know I keep saying it to you, is the entire point of this episode is supposed to be an Amor Fati, because it's in the title. This is not an Amor Fati. That's not what that phrase actually means.
Okay. What does the phrase mean?
Well, literally, it means love of fate, as you would imagine.
Yeah.
But Amor Fati as a concept is usually attributed to Friedrich Nietzsche, very famous nihilistic philosopher.
Kylie Rae Jepsen's wrote a song about him.
Yeah,
Maybe.
the Spake Zarathustra, the madman with the lantern.
You're meant to dispute the Kylie Rae Jepsen bit.
I love the Kylie Rae Jepsen song. It really does actually illustrate the Spake Zarathustra.
That's not her.
But anyway, the Amor Fati as the love of fate, it's basically, in Nietzsche's belief, is one moment of happiness. It was worth, essentially, I think he says, an infinite amount of sorrow, or an eternity of sorrow in the translation, so long as you have one moment of happiness. So basically, you should love and accept fate, be it good or bad, because, we accept the bad things as they're necessary to have the good things. And that's what an Amor Fati is. That's why it's love of fate. It's more an acceptance of fate. It isn't going to be wholly good, but you have to accept the bad parts to also accept the good parts. Did that explain it well?
That explained it very well, and
yeah.
I'm going to say that...
So now look at this episode and think, how is this an Amor Fati?
Well, it's not. Let's just go with it. It's really not.
Yeah.
I think one thing you've got to take away from it, though, is like how Mulder was put into this state is unclear. I mean, is Mulder's secret wish to be put into a witness protection program? He doesn't get to learn anything. He just gets to be safe from the world, and also Deep Throat is here. Mulder, do we want to have a word with your subconscious? And here's your sister who won't talk to you, and here's her kids who won't talk to you. Here's your kids who won't visit you when you're dying. And
well, Kensman says everyone you love is dead or something to that effect, so maybe his kids have died in this fantasy as well.
Or maybe they have, but there's no scene of Mulder being a parent.
No.
There's just, here's the kids, and Fowley's dead.
It's not exactly the end of Inception.
No, which would be a lot better way of doing it. But I think what really throws me with this whole thing, because I remembered this as being VR again. It's not VR at all, as far as I can tell. This is just...
Yeah, I must admit, I thought it was VR, but I guess it's just some kind of drug hallucination.
Whether it was VR or whether it was just his dream sequence, why is Cancer Man not aging? And then why, outside the window, are the aliens enacting Futurama's destruction of the Earth?
It's a bit War of the Worlds, to be fair.
It's about War of the Worlds, but the first thing that came to mind was when Fry is going forward through time when he's frozen the first time, the aliens just come by twice and just nuke cities.
Yeah.
And it's...
You wouldn't think... it just made me think of
War of the
Worlds with whoosh, with our heat ray sort of thing.
War of the Worlds is fine. Why is it in his fantasy? If this is his fantasy to keep him safe or calm or whatever, why is it hidden by a curtain? And why is it happening?
Again, that's taken from Last Temptation of Christ. When Judas arrives at the end, he says something like, because you have not died for our sins, Jerusalem is burning.
Yeah.
So that was Jerusalem burning, essentially.
Okay. See, I think that makes more sense in the Last Temptation of Christ than it does with Mulder saying, I want to open the window. Because if Scully had shown him that would have worked. But it's not Scully, it's Cancerman who shows him that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm getting hung up on that's being weird.
Yeah, it should be Scully. But at the same time, it's because, as we've illustrated with Scully's Native American book, which I don't think we ever get to the bottom of how it got there.
She says Fowley sent it to her.
Oh, Fowley sent it to her, fair enough.
Well, no, she says that. I don't know if it's true.
But that all seems to be about a belief that one man can subvert the apocalypse, which we've got to believe is Mulder for some reason.
Again, Talitha Kumi and Heron Volk implied this. I would query if the Navajo ever had a tribute to one person kind of thing, because what little I know about Native American beliefs, I don't think they're that precise. They don't tend to go for prophesized people, I think.
It's not so much prophesized people. Again, it's not one of my areas of expertise, but often it's usually people's relationships with natural spirits and things like that.
That kind of thing makes more sense, not one person.
Because you have the concept of the Great Spirit and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, on the back of that, we're going to have to say, we're really just going to let that spaceship thing sit there and we're just going to reference it a few times. Not going to get into Scully, is your belief system shooken yet? Because I don't think I could believe the same things anymore.
Especially Scully, who we know is kind of like a warrior of God who's going to be the protector of the second coming of Jesus.
Yeah.
And now she's learnt about this spaceship covered in biblical scriptures.
Well, I think the other frustrating part is, and this is a longer time one, is Scully, do you want to tell a lot of people about the spaceship. Do you want to get some people over there? Have you contacted Dr. Amina and been told it's no longer there? Do you want to deal with the crashed ship that you've just left?
No, but that vision of the kind of elderly African gentleman told her it wasn't for her, so she's given up.
Terrible. It's much like all the biblical stuff, because it's like Cancerman gets in there early with "Rise, Mulder," or what the phrasing is, the biblical phrasing he says to Mulder, isn't it?
Arise.
Arise. Yeah, but there's what he says beforehand or something, isn't it? Because he injects it in with drug. And I'll give the episode credit of it's ambiguous as to what point Mulder was wheeled out of the hospital.
True.
Presumably he didn't walk out. Presumably he was just wheeled out on a hospital bed.
The Arise is kind of interesting because we mentioned it before, because that's literally what Talitha Kumi meant.
Oh, okay.
Because it was the girl I say arise, or whatever it is in the Bible, is Talitha Kumi. So coming back to Cancerman using that same phrase, in English admittedly, is really strange.
Well, it is if you're not going to acknowledge that Talitha Kumi happened. I think one thing about this whole new stage of the conspiracy is someone like Cancerman, the last man standing on this whole thing, aside from the Doctor, they've got the Doctor who can do this weird crap for some reason. As I'd like him to comment on, yeah, our plans were totaled, this is my new plan, or just comment on how things have shifted from Talitha Kumi's days. Because in a whole, I've got to deal with the conspiracy as it now stands, he doesn't seem to be having any problems or pauses or any kind of... You don't feel the events of 2001 Sun actually impeded him, like at all. He seems to be exactly in the same position he was before.
Yeah, pretty much.
So why do it? Because if you'd had, reverse it around. So if you'd had Cancerman living like Critchcow does, like Mulder sends Skinner to go to the Cancerman to get help. That I could have bought as that's what happened to Cancerman after the events of 2001 Sun.
Can I also question as well, when we last saw Gibson Praise, he'd had brain surgery and Scully commented about the fact that they butchered him.
Yeah.
Yet this neurosurgeon that CSM apparently has on staff can not only do a dangerous procedure that should have killed Mulder and not kill him, but Mulder's absolutely fine afterwards and just going around with a hat on to cover his head bandage.
After 1 week.
After 1 week, without his head shaved.
Yep.
So this guy's a flipping genius. Who worked on Gibson Praise?
Well, clearly the butchers down the hall, they're the rubbish ones.
The intern got to work on him.
Yeah. You've reminded me as well, though. Okay, so let me get this straight. Mulder was infected with the black oil in Tunguska.
Yeah.
He was then given the vaccine.
The Russian vaccine.
The Russian vaccine. Either before he was infected or after infected, he got both things. He then left Tunguska in Terma, went back to the United States, been fine. Scully was stung by a bee in the film and given presumably the American version of the vaccine, but that's so muddy we never find out exactly what that thing is. We just know it is a vaccine in the film as well, and it is fine. We've been over it last for Sixth Extinction Part 1 that we don't understand why we've got a difference here. Other than maybe the American black oil is more refined? I don't know, but is Russian black oil worse? Is this a dig at Russia?
Technically speaking, if we are still calling this thing a vaccine, they have to have been infected to be cured, so both of them would have dormant black oil in their system. Because you'd still have the dormant virus and the antibodies that would treat it.
Yeah. So, we're going to have to set aside the whole rubbing thing. What I'm getting to here is, Cancerman says, Critchcow says, or both of them say, Mulder is now proof of everything he wanted. He's proof of alien-human hybrids.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Cassandra Spender, she was just something else.
And Gibson Praise. Not to mention the hybrid that was killed in Talitha Kumi.
Yeah. And all the shapeshifters, all the grey aliens, the Erlenmeyer Flask.
The many, many Samanthas.
All the Samanthas. I like the fact we're just hand-waving away the last Samantha. Oh, she doesn't count. It's like, what?
No, it's just Mulder. He's the hybrid. Except now we've got to assume, I guess, he's no longer a hybrid because Cancerman's taken his hybrid cells, which is exactly how hybridization works.
Yes, you just take a bit of brain tissue out and he's no longer an alien-human hybrid, but now Cancerman is.
So, let's say if we have a hybrid animal like a liger, we just have to remove a bit of brain tissue and it just turns into a tiger.
Yes. Or lion, depending which brain tissue.
It depends which brain tissue we're taking away, yep.
Dave, Chris, you didn't take biology, did you? Okay, but
Or Scully, for that
or
matter.
Scully. But, I mean, get past the whole, this is incoherent at the best of times. But how many proofs of alien life do you need? Because isn't this like the 7th? Haven't we had a lot
We
of
have
them?
a bad habit of losing them.
We do, but they've seen and held so many now. Because Scully handled the Erlenmeyer flask. Mulder has met shapeshifters. Mulder has met his sister, who then collapsed into green goo. Scully has fondled that bit of metal. Scully has been rushed by hundreds of greys in an underground tunnel because that's how they get their kicks.
We've all met the bounty hunter.
We've all met the bounty hunter. Mulder met Jeremiah Smith.
Oh, the bridge. Scully actually got attacked by the rebels.
Scully got attacked by the rebels. Scully saw the rebels. Scully saw a literal alien abduction in front of her. Mulder saw that dead body at the bottom of the lake in Tempest Fugit.
Mulder also saw all the feral aliens in the movie.
Yep. Mulder saw the spaceship take off. Yeah, I mean, in terms of evidence for alien life, Mulder could write a 6-volume series. Admittedly, he has very little evidence, but I don't think he needs any more evidence, guys. We haven't touched on one of the big spoilers, because I think the episode doesn't touch on it, or really do anything with it.
Which is what?
So, Mr. Mulder never slept with his wife.
No, he was oddly inattentive, it turns out.
Despite working with Cigarette Smoking Man on the same project, but Cigarette Smoking Man, while being a better water skier, also snuck back to Mr. Mulder's house. And
This man who kept coming on holiday with them and stuff like that, apparently.
so, Cancer Man is so virile. Cassandra doesn't have any problems with him, and he fathers Jeffrey. He then sneaks off and fathers Mulder and Samantha with Tina Mulder. And Mr. Mulder worked late at the office.
Given their ages, I presume it's coming back as well, because I'm pretty sure Mulder's the oldest, then Spender,
Yeah.
then Samantha, so we are zigzagging a bit here too.
So, wow. But, I mean, as a reveal, it would have been a shock when the Samantha one kicked in, or when the Samantha one was implied, because we did talk at the time, is people were preempting that, and people had suspected it for a while, then Samantha seemed to derail that. And now we've just put it back in again.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean anything. Because does it matter that he's his father?
Mulder takes it surprisingly well as well. It's like, take my hand, I am your father. Alright.
To be fair, actually, maybe we're coming at this wrong angle. Do we know that's true?
Or is it part of the dream?
Because that's after he's injected him, isn't it? And when he's told him to get up. And we're pretty sure Mulder doesn't walk out of that hospital. Because otherwise they wouldn't block out all the monitors.
We know it's true.
We know it's true. It shouldn't be true, though. It's a terrible plot reveal. It doesn't mean anything. I do also have to say, Tina Mulder, not Mother of the Year. I mean, she's always been a bit flaky, but this feels like a step further for her than she's ever gone to before.
Previously, it's just knowing far more than she lets on and just making flippant excuses about why she can't explain herself.
Yeah, and last time she talked to Cancer Man, she had a stroke.
Yeah.
But this time, she's saying, yes, take my son and extract his brain matter. You too can be an alien human. Tina, what are you doing?
I presume it's been sold to her on the basis of, I have the means to save him.
I alone can save him. Which is quite not going to mention he might kill him. And so they've also got no paternal instinct from Cancer Man.
We know that he basically doesn't care about Mulder at this stage.
I suppose so. But he seemed to care more about Spender before he shot him in the face.
To be fair, he's always seemed to care more about Scully than Mulder.
Well, I think Scully's a sensible one, isn't she? He's not as close as coming to the truth as Mulder is. I do feel this episode completely shortchanges Scully again.
Yeah.
Because all she gets to do is run around, shout at Kritschgau, and
Pray with Albert.
But then the Kritschgau thing, though, is she deletes all the copies of photos he's got of the alien spaceship. We're going to have to back up a bit to why does Kritschgau want them? Because he doesn't believe aliens exist. So what's going on? I don't understand. And since he also mentions the black oil, I'm going to be really confused as to how that makes any sense at all. But Scully finds out that he hacked into her computer. She deletes all the copies of the pictures and then walks out. Are you telling me that he can't hack into your computer and steal those photos again?
You presume there must be something still there because Kryzik nicked the laptop later.
Well, exactly. And then Crisco's just killed, but it's not Diana Fowley who died off screen. And also changed her motivation after one conversation with Scully.
Yeah, true.
Wasn't exactly persuasive argument either.
I do think it's weak because she's not been a major character, but we've had about half a dozen episodes with Fowley, and then just the offhand comment of, oh yeah, she was shot.
She's found dead in her apartment.
We didn't have, we couldn't spare 30 seconds of the episode to show Fowley being shot.
No, she must be killed off screen, and I mean, just get Krychek. Can we not just have Krychek do it again? Do you think? I mean, if you'd kill Krychek off screen, I don't think we'd mind.
That one you could take as a throwaway comment, but we got to see that.
Yeah.
Or at least the aftermath of it.
And I'm not entirely sure why we need to do that either, because it's Krychek doing Krychek-y things.
Yeah. In his Unabomber outfit again.
And a wig. That was weird.
The only other slightly weird thing in the episode is Albert, who I was pretty sure died 2 episodes ago, and yet he keeps popping up in this episode, but then the reveal is, oh no, he's been dead for days.
Yeah.
It's like, but we know he was dead. We saw that. I think Scully should have not questioned this when Albert started appearing. We all knew it was a ghost.
Yeah. And also, why? I don't think Native American people pray quite how they presented it there. That was weird.
I don't know, to be honest. I don't know enough to be able to criticise.
No, I mean, I guess it could be Scully's subconscious doing it to it for some reason.
But we know ghosts and apparitions exist in the X-Files because, the ghosts that stole Christmas in particular.
Yeah.
We've interacted with them and had full, coherent conversations.
It's not a shock, but at the same time, it's weird. I will also comment on, as I said to you, that the editing of Scully finding Mulder is actually terrible. Because the way they've done it, it looks like she arrives in the middle of the operation.
But they've just cleared out and left him for some reason.
Yeah.
There's also a weird bit in that screen with, even though we see he's kind of secured to the table, when Scully reaches for him, he sits up.
Yeah. I know you want your biblical imagery, but practicality has to kick in eventually. Yeah. And, I mean, yes, you've cheated by having him in a cruciform pose. And I think the problem with that is you can do this. Generally, you have to justify why you've done it. You can't just do that on the basis of nothing. Because it's far neater to have him just lying normally on a operating table like everyone else does.
As you would if you were having brain surgery, and not the two of them kind of head-to-head like they had them set up on there.
So the other one I could think of then is like Get Out, where basically...
Yes, that's what I was thinking, where you have them on the kind of opposite gurneys.
Yeah. And they don't have to be right next to each other because you have to keep... There's a certain level of separation for cleanliness and everything else. Yeah. And also it's going to be difficult to... Because you have to reach across Cancer Man to get to Mulder's head. Then you have to reach across Mulder to get to Cancer Man's head to put the cells in.
It's like a really big table as well. It's not the convenience of a gurney where people can move on either side of it.
Someone somewhere read the script and said, I'm going to have this great big cruciform operating table. And no one said, what are you doing?
William B. Davis commented on how uncomfortable those scenes were to actually film because of the position they were in. And I saw a neat comment from him somewhere where he said if David Duchovny had realised this, he didn't think he would have written the episode in the same way.
Well, you'd hope. I mean, I'd like to hope that David Duchovny watched it back and said, yeah, that was a mistake. Shouldn't have done that one. But I mean, to get onto that writing bit as well, I found it really interesting that there's a comment that they wrote this one and the first one in parallel.
Yes.
And so Chris Carter, they had to sort of coordinate with each other, but they didn't write them together. And that explains an awful lot of why these episodes don't feel like they actually connect together at all.
There's a really weird structure, particularly with the Sixth Extinction as the bridge.
Yeah.
That the three of them just don't connect right. It's not like we've previously seen with things like Redux that do flow into each other.
Yeah. As much as we had one with Redux, that's one continuous story. And as much as there's some baffling things, I mean, apparently we can tell a Chris Carter episode because there'll be a lot of voiceover in it. So, as soon as the voiceover starts, just, fast forward.
Harsh,
but we didn't even talk about that for the last episode, where just Scully was droning on for a long time. And it's like, oh, for God's sake.
You even have bits in this, like the bit at the start where Cancer Man just starts randomly quoting Robert Frost and things like that.
That was weird. I still like the fact, though, that he just appears in a room, which presumably then means it must be Mulder's delusion.
Yeah.
But I do like his response of, how do you get in here? So why do you ask these questions? How are you surprised anymore? At this point in your life, that should be the last question you have.
Yeah, true.
Do we have anything else, or should we just pretend that none of this ever happened? Much like the Series well.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
I tell a lie, it will actually.
We
stay
have
with us.
slammed this 3-parter, but unfortunately it is just a weak beginning to a series, in my opinion.
I know Paul Vitalis didn't like it, but I am mystified by the positive reviews for any of these 3 episodes.
There were lots. I think it's because it's such a philosophical and kind of personal episode for Mulder's character. You know, people do like that. We saw that with things like Miyagro as well, that people like the introspective episodes.
Yeah. But I think there's a difference between an introspective episode and a good introspective episode.
Yeah, it didn't work for me. I'm in the Paula Vitaris camp, I'm afraid, for this one. And even it should be noticed there were bits that Paula Vitaris liked. I think in particular she liked the way the sandcastle scenes were shot and things like that.
I'd say, though, they were fine. And as you said, what the sandcastle is way too heavy-handed.
Mm.
Given that Mulder's never seen the bloody thing, I don't understand why he can do that.
He is psychic.
His psychic ability extends to reading Skinner, Fowley, Cancer Man. That's it. And maybe pass that test. He does read Tina's mind, yeah. But she can't hear him for some reason, but Cancer Man can.
No, you had that scary locked-in bit with Tina.
Yeah.
It's either Cancer Man can hear him, or it's like Professor Farnsworth and he's just anticipating what Mulder's going to say.
Well, the rest of season 7 awaits us, but we're going to take a little interlude because we need to review something that should have sat in season 3, but no way will we get into that at that time.
So you're talking about the video game that we recently finished on Patreon?
Yes. So that will be available for everyone to watch our entirety of, but we'll do, well, maybe to hopefully give some people some incentive to have a look at it, is we'll try and review our experience of the game as an X-Files episode.
So this is the 1998 FMV game that was released on PlayStation and a few other formats.
Yes, that's the one. And it has little cameos from a whole bunch of X-Files people.
But mainly it's the Craig Wilmore simulator.
And it's really the Craig Wilmore simulator. We'll have to get to what that does to the premise, which is some decidedly weird things ultimately.
It'll be an interesting difference. So that's going to be next week's episode.
That'll be next week's episode. And then after that, but we're taking 1 week off. And when we come back, we'll be watching Hungry and Millennium.
Ah.
Anyway, if you'd like to get hold of us, our email address is thingsgettingstrange42@gmail.com.
We're also on social media. And do hook me up if you would like to promote anything on the start of our show, such as conventions, fan events, fan fiction, anything you've got going, so long as it's X-Files related. We are on Twitter and Tumblr at GetStrange42. We're on Mastodon at GetStrange42@universedon.com. And on Facebook, where you can find us by searching for Things Are Getting Strange and X-Files Rewatch Podcast. Additionally, if you're not sick of my voice yet, I also have a channel called AdverseCamber42 on Twitch TV. I stream Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 PM GMT or Saturdays at 5 PM GMT. I'm currently playing Wolong Fallen Dynasty on the PlayStation 5, and I also have a connected AdverseCamber42 YouTube channel where old episodes go up, and I am currently doing an exclusive Let's Play on there of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Please check it out if you're interested.
We have a Patreon, patreon.com/thingsargettingstrange, where, as previously noted, you can find our Let's Play of the X-Files game and a review of Mulder and Scully by Catatonia. And there'll be more stuff added to this as we go. All the non-TV and non-film X-Files stuff, like the novels, the other video game, the comics, when we get to the comics, trading card games, board games, and any other ephemera that we feel like doing. Our theme music is envisioned by Kevin MacLeod. You can find that on Computech.com, licensed to Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Thank you all for listening, and until next time, please remember,
Get up and fight the fight.